Hey, this is Russell Wayne from the Main Event 365, and this is the off-season edition. In this video, myself, Main Event Mike, the West Coast Stat Master, Gregg are going to talk about off-season. And if you share this video, you'll have a chance to win an NFL jersey on draft day for our draft special. So don't go anywhere.
So we're talking about now the NFC North Division champions, the Minnesota Vikings, the new home of one T.J. Hawkinson. The Vikings finished 13-4 and were one and done in the playoffs to the New York Giants. They finished with the 30th ranked defense and the 7th ranked offense. Kirk Cousins expiring contract. The Vikings said, nah, we don't want to restructure. We'll just let it end. They might be looking for quarterback. Quarterback is one of their draft needs. They are not sitting on a bunch of draft picks. Only two in the top 100, number 23 and number 87. And they lost key players like Eric Kendricks, Patrick Peterson, and others. Dalvin Cook with a huge contract eating it up. So far, they've done nothing but lose players. They did bring in Byron Murphy, Arizona Cardinals DB, but their losses have far outweighed their gains in the offseason. We'll start with you this time, Russ. What kind of grade are you going to give the Vikings on their offseason?
I mean, an F. I mean, it's body after body, and they're still only $1 million above the cap. They don't have enough money to sign their rookie class. I mean, how are you going to pay a tight end $7 million a year when you just traded for T.J. Hawkinson and he's like a blocking tight end? So, and not re-signing Patrick Peterson and his 80 overall grade on PFF. He played out of his mind as one of the top corners in the league. And then you bring in Byron Murphy, who didn't play nearly as well as Patrick Peterson did. So you got worse there. You bring in Davenport, who, I mean, he hasn't really been good in the last couple of years. So if you were 89 on Madden, now you are a 75 on Madden. One thing that you did do that was good was re-signing of Alexander Madison. Does Cook make it through the draft? Are they going to trade Dalvin Cook on draft day? That's another question that they have. So they got a lot of problems in Minnesota, man. I'm looking up at all these numbers. Who's your quarterback? Are you going to draft a quarterback? You don't have a second-round pick.
I want to remind everyone out there who's watching, if you're watching this, that we are going to be broadcasting live from the Lion's Den in a secret location. And we will be bringing you the 2023 NFL Draft as it happens within the legal limits to allow us to do that. We'll be giving you picks that as they come off the board. We'll be giving you an analysis, special guests. It's going to be a live event. That's Thursday, April 27th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Be sure to check us out, Facebook Live, the Main Event 365. And while you're at it, go over to our YouTube, subscribe to our channel, and follow us on Facebook.
In terms of personnel, you guys, I mean, Russell just hit the nail on the head. But I'm going to talk about something they did in bringing Brian Flores in as a coordinator. I'm willing to give them a C- just based on the coordinator bring-in. Look, Flores is a hell of a defensive mastermind. During the Belichick era, he came in and took over and ran one of the better helped with Belichick's helping hand, obviously, ran one of the better Patriots defenses there. He went to Miami that was ranked dead last in defense the year before he was signed, comes in and immediately makes them the 11th best defense according to DVOA from Football Outsiders. That being said, you guys, Flores is stepping into a much different situation here in Minnesota than he did with Miami. You know, he stepped into Miami where they had some key players in hand already. They just probably weren't being utilized right. Russ hit the nail on the head in terms of secondary, you guys. We're looking at an aging Harrison Smith. They're hoping, and this is where the hopium comes in, one of the worst drugs in the NFL, that Seen can come in and replicate his play after a horrendous injury last year. I do believe it was a compound fracture. That's where the hopium factors in. Byron Murphy for Patrick Peterson, at best, is maybe a lateral move. Like I said, I like Flores and everything he brings, but this is a totally different situation than when he stepped into Miami, where they had a Byron Jones, Xavier Howard, Javon Holland. You're looking at your best corner right now is Byron Murphy, who's a good versatile piece. I'm a little bit higher on him than Russ, but he doesn't transform the secondary. Russ touched on with Davenport. I love this kid coming out of college. The Saints gave up 2 first-round picks for him. This kid has had one good season in the NFL, and most of it's predicated on injuries. Even more kind of just precarious was the fact that Davenport and Zadarius Smith essentially play the same position. Now, technically, you could kick Davenport in on that end in that 3-4 defense and then maybe fully bring Zadarius Smith off the edge. I'm not sold on it, you guys. I think a lot more of this defensive rebounding, if anything, will have to do with Flores more than any personnel they brought in.
Did you say hopium?
Yeah, hopium. Worst drug for, millions of NFL fanatics hooked on it every year, every move. It turns you into a homer. Yeah, and another shot too is losing Davin Tomlinson. Just plugging and playing Tonga.
Yeah,
I don't know how well that's going to work out. That interior on that 3-4 with Harrison Phillips, Tonga, and now Lowry. I mean, is that instilling fear in any offensive coordinators? I don't know.
So I just traded a 2nd and 3rd round pick for a tight end, and then I pay a blocking tight end $7 million a year.
You must be crazy.
I have a perfectly good cornerback that graded off the charts as one of the top 10 cornerbacks in the league.
Yeah.
And I decided to bring in a younger version of a guy who wasn't as good.
You must be crazy.
I will give Kwesi the break on this, though, you guys. He kind of stepped into a situation where these contracts were bloated for these aging veterans. Once again, Rick Spielman, I like his draft ability. His contract negotiations and contract making was incredibly suspect, though. So Kwesi kind of stepped into a bit of a mess. One thing I will give Kwesi props on, though, is not extending Kirk Cousins. This is obviously a do-or-die year for him.
Just got to laugh because it's like, I got to give him some credit. He stepped into a whirlwind. So what does he do when he steps into the whirlwind?
Makes it worse.
He trades all his draft capital away. And then signs a $7 million blocking tight end.
Oh, bro.
And you have no draft capital.
You must be crazy. I think I'll make a move on draft day and let my division rival move up and take the fastest guy in the league. You must be crazy.
Even better, then trade back again and let your other division rival grab another fast wide receiver.
Christian
what
Watson,
is that?
right?
Yeah,
right. So
be
Williams and Christian Watson get to kill you for the next 10 years. You must be crazy.
Yeah, this draft class for him, we'll see how this goes. He's got to absolutely nail this. Flores needs help, and he needs a lot of help on that defense. There's only so much great coaching can make up for, personnel talent. So we'll see how this works out this year.
I feel bad for that guy. Like he comes in, he's like, all right, they get rid of all his talent.
It's not just that, you guys. I think the most suspect thing on that, you guys, was the fact that they bring in Flores, a defensive guru, highly respected around the league, and then Zadarius Smith just jumps off the deep end like, wait a minute, I'm not getting paid enough. I want a better contract. How does that work?
He was going off the rails on a Kwesi train.
He was. Absolutely.
You must be Kwesi.
And so I'm going to bring up their draft. They got 23, 87. That's probably their 3rd round pick, right? And then they have our 4th round pick at 119. It's like, what are they even going to do, guys? I mean, they got so many holes on defense. I mean, Minneapolis would tell you that they need to draft all defense. But if they didn't re-sign Kirk Cousins, what do you think at 23? Do you think they go get Hendon Hooker?
I think they replace Adam Thielen. They got to have a weapon out there on a rookie contract. And with Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson, you add another. I know KJ Osborne, the fan base likes him, but he's not proven himself to be an explosive, like a Jalen Waddle number 2 to me. I haven't seen it. Their draft needs are listed as corner, obviously to replace Patrick Peterson, wide receiver, defensive tackle, defensive end, and interestingly, they have quarterback listed as a need too. So I think it's obvious that Minnesota is going to move on from Kirk Cousins as soon as that contract is up, which I think at the end of the 2023 season. I think they definitely could take a quarterback. Now, whether they go do that at 23, I think it's just going to be determined on who falls in the draft. If there's one of those top 5 quarterbacks still alive at 23, I believe that the Vikings will take them. They don't have a lot to package up to move up in the draft unless they were to package future capital, right? And the rule is if you're going to use future capital, then it has to be a round later. So if you want to move up, if you want to make it, we want this year's 3rd rounder. If you want to push that and make it next year, it's going to have to be a 2nd round. You bump it up. That's the kind of the rule of thumb between these GMs is what you hear some of the experts saying that is the pattern for them. So my point is they just don't have a lot to package up without dipping into the future already, which, hey, they might do that.
Are you guys ready for a bad take?
Home of bad takes. That should be our new slogan.